Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of ATL on Fire. And we are in front of the fire today. Back from Philadelphia. Dave, Carmen, how y'all doing?
Good. Back in the ATL. Carmen, how about you?
Not so good.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
What
Do
are-
tell
what-
the podcast
What are
listeners.
those sticks next to you?
Yeah. So I rolled up on crutches today. Hurt myself hurt my knee playing soccer yesterday. So that might be it for soccer for me.
Oh,
Don't say
no.
it. Don't
It's
say
been a good 40 years.
You know, even Seabiscuit came back after being put out to pasture. So you got a shot.
There is hope. So you're saying there's a chance.
Oh, boy. Well, we got some red wine to kind of numb it off. What are we having here, Dave?
It's an Oberon, which I think we've had one time before on the podcast. It's a hoity-toity Napa Cabernet, Mikey Dobbs. Very nice. And, you know, the story is that there are competitors for our winery because our winery is on Oberon Walk Place, so the street. And so we're like, whoa, we'll name our winery Oberon. And then we realized there already is one, and it's really good.
Should check their trademark. I don't know about this.
Yeah, maybe we can, sue them.
So we are going to talk a little bit about the preseason game against Chattanooga the other day.
Right.
There's a little bit of rumors that are starting to come true on the signing front for Atlanta United. And probably a little bit to talk about for some of the U.S. men's national team front office turnovers.
The drama continues.
Anything else you want to chat about during today's podcast, this evening's podcast?
I think that's a lot, Mikey Dobbs.
It is a lot.
Where do you want to start?
I want to start with our sponsor, Dave.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Wild Heaven Brewery, 2 locations, one here in Avondale Estates, the other on the west end of town. If you love beer and happy hour, stop by Wild Heaven Brewery. It's awesome.
I was at an old English beer tasting down at Bold Monk down on the west side. And they had Wild Heaven beer at that one. And it was terrific. Of the 50 or so beers that I tried, I think it was like at least second, maybe first. I mean, it was really good.
Nice. So get on down there if you haven't been to Wild Heaven. Let's dig.
Those boys know what they're doing.
Into it, though. Atlanta United. We have no striker that's a part of preseason training. We've been concerned about that, but it also sounds like the news of him signing the Greek player who's a Celtic striker,
Giacomakis.
His signing is imminent, Dave.
Imminent. Yeah, he's coming. He's coming for
coming.
sure. Everything says that he's coming.
Let's pronounce it one more time for
Giacomakis.
So I am not that sophisticated. I'm gonna go with Papa Giorgio. I think that's
All right.
what
I like it.
our
Papa
Twitter
Giorgio Giacomakis.
GG Papa Giorgio. I don't know, something like that.
I like it.
Yeah, there's already some chants from Celtic that I think we could
copy
leech onto since we can't seem to create our own.
I'm good for that.
What else? There's another Peruvian center back to add to our lineup. And
Luis Abram.
Okay.
Abram.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Abram.
Let's go Abram.
All right, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. And so there was supposedly a rumor of 3 signings, and it sounds like one of them is in the midfield, right? So
there was supposed to be 1 midfielder, 1 defender, 1 forward.
So,
Abrams is center back. Giacomakis is a forward. And so by default, that leaves us with 1 midfielder coming, assuming Pineda had it right.
Well, one exciting thing about the preseason opener against Chattanooga is we got to see Brad Guzan and Miles Robinson starting, which is a bit of a shock because Atlanta tends to seem to be a bit conservative with anybody coming back from injury. So it was a pleasant surprise, really, to see both of them in the starting lineup.
Yeah, you got to figure with them in the starting lineup at Chattanooga means that they are thinking that they're ready to go for opening day because it's still a month away.
Yeah. Now, I don't know that Guzan particularly looked sharp, but what did you think about Miles' performance?
Everybody's saying, he was moving great. He didn't do that much, but it didn't look to me like he was moving so great.
Yeah, and
he certainly wasn't hobbling or anything.
Right.
But I don't know if he didn't really seem to show the pace and the that extra gear that he normally has.
Yeah, and I think that's understandable and kind of what is hopeful. That he's starting this early to get that extra gear and get a little confidence. I mean, that's a big injury
Sure.
to come back from at his age, and probably is going to take 6 or 7 games.
His age.
His age. I don't know. He's a young buck, man. What is he like?
Young.
I was about to say,
What's he? 24?
Yeah, maybe 25, I think. But
24,
like
25.
Oldest 25.
Yeah. So yeah, he's. I think that's probably the first major injury that he's had. I don't know that he's had any other big injuries like that. So that's a lot to get over mentally. And even if your body's ready to trust in that next gear and put the pressure on it, I think that has to still be in the back of his mind, even if everything's good.
Yeah. I can't disagree.
Now, Dave, you and I, before we did this podcast, and we're coming back from the convention in Philadelphia, which, by the way, was awesome.
Had a blast.
Hopefully you all have listened to the interview we did with JP Della Camera. That was a treat.
We got more coming for you too.
Yeah, we have a lot of content from the convention trip that we had, and it was great to make some connections. Met one of the Atlanta United scouts that we hope to have on soon now that the season's kicked off.
Right.
Sounds like they're comfortable sharing a little bit more about kind of their scouting process and just maybe a peek under the curtain of what happens on that front.
Right. For sure. I think that would be wonderful.
Now, what did you think of that Athletic article, by the way, around scouting and how effective scouting is in general?
Yeah. For those of you who didn't follow it, there's an Athletic article which basically says that the scouts, when you really come down to it, you try to evaluate what they do. They're they're slightly better than random.
Yeah. And a lot of it is predicated on previous performance, right? In terms of predicting what a player is going to be capable of in the future.
If a player plays well, he's going to be good. But this whole idea that they're going to predict this trajectory of players just really doesn't happen much.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really a fascinating read. To be honest, I only made it about 3/4 of the way through, but it was a good read.
There was a big thing that I think that article was missing, which is
coaching.
Yeah, coaching and formation and fit.
Yeah.
Right. And so, if you're scouting a player, if you're right now, you're Atlanta United, you're scouting players in South America or even Europe, and you're looking, I don't think you can be scouting players just in general. Like, there's this player who I think is going to be good or better, right? Because, outside of the players we know, the famous ones, the Messis of the world, the Ronaldos, the Mbappes or whatever, who, to be honest, those guys are probably going to be fantastic no matter what team you put them in. Although I would say that even those guys, there were times when Messi for Argentina wasn't quite the Messi he was for Barcelona. But in any case, outside of those players, the vast majority of players are in some systems are really going to shine under some coaches and some are not. There was even, I'm forgetting his name right now, but it was Spanish. He was a world player of the year. He transferred to Middlesbrough from Spain and he went for world player of the year to like nobody in a heartbeat because he's just playing for a coach who didn't appreciate, didn't know how to use them.
Yeah. And I mean, even Miguel Almiron's an example when you go playing for Newcastle, who is trying to just stay up in the Premier League when you're playing a conservative style. You're not playing to a player's strengths like now we're seeing with Miguel Almiron, and you're seeing the same guy we saw here.
I think that's a great example. There was a lot of people were like, oh, it's a step up in the talent and Miguel Almiron won't be able to do it. And we argued, I think at the time, that we don't think so. It just that he's in a team that is not built to help what he needs to do.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Chattanooga preseason game.
Well, you want to talk about? Okay.
Well, now I want to talk about like heading into that game.
Okay, heading into the game.
We were saying, how can we talk positively about Pineda?
Okay,
because I think, and it's really bothered me that listeners might have this perception of us just wanting to pick on Pineda because I think there was a lot of podcasts where we weren't happy with what we're seeing, and we were attributing a lot of that to coaching and it being pretty square on his shoulders for some things that we didn't show any progress with, how we were changing things tactically or making the team progress throughout the 2022 season.
Yep.
I'm still trying to dig for like good examples other than Pineda being an excellent guy in terms of, being nice and trying to, like, in his heart, build culture within a team that was fractured from, a couple other coaches that didn't necessarily create a good vibe, maybe within the clubhouse with Frank DeBoer and Heinze. So you got to say, well, hopefully he's done that inside the clubhouse, made everybody feel good about their job. And like, how do we get back on the front foot of rebuilding whatever his vision is?
Yeah.
And okay, we've only had a year and a half with him to let that happen. So still some rope out there heading into 2022 for Pineda to let whatever form is in his head in terms of the tactics that can lean into the strengths of the players that we have. Like we're saying, if he's identified, people who are stars, Luis Araujo, Almada, and this new striker that we'll hopefully get to see in preseason soon.
Yeah. So you might argue that, the question is, what was wrong with Atlanta United? Was it the injuries? Was it the culture in the locker room? Was it the talent on the field? Was it the coaching of the talent, or the formation, the tactics? If you simply say that one of the big problems might have been the attitude in the locker room, then you can say, maybe Pineda put his foot down and no arrows con pollo, right? We're not going to accept that. Martinez out. Anybody who was going to complain, whatever. Franco, maybe bitter attitude, gone. See ya. Moreno, gone. See ya. Right.
Yeah.
So you could make an argument that that's possibility.
Yeah.
Right?
We don't know. We don't know if any of that's true. Those are examples, like whether Moreno did or didn't have the right attitude in any situation. But if that was his stance, right, then he took it and made decisions.
Yeah, it's the one thing that we have sort of the least insight into, which is sort of the locker room culture. But if you go beyond that, you look at the team, right? You say, all right, here, I'll throw out a series of questions. Were we good in attack? Did we score goals?
No.
Were we good in defending? Did we prevent goals from being scored?
No.
Okay.
That's not what the data says.
Right. The data wasn't good. And we finished 10th place, which obviously wasn't good. Position per dollar was even worse because we were the number one paid team in the league. But here's the thing. Okay. So now if you look at the field, let's look for positives on the field, right? Were there any individual players? Sometimes when a team is going down the tubes, coach is good for an individual player, and there are players who are going the opposite way and are really making a name for them. So who do you see?
Well, I think you and I talked about it for the podcast. Like Andrew Gutman was a good example, and I think he did himself even some favors by just having a good head on his shoulders to know when to drive forward and when to be astute on the defensive side. But even so, I think we talked about it about pinching in too much and not going out and pressing the teams on the wings. There was clearly kind of what seemed to be kind of more of a compact type of defense versus going out and pressuring the guys on the wings. And so even that kind of bled into some of the things we were seeing with Gutman. But overall, I think Gutman was a positive example of a player last year that seemed to shine when he was healthy and involved.
Yeah. I mean, he certainly, of the whole team, he might be the only one who you might say his transfer price went up over last season. And
you got to say, like, Purata, at least momentum wise, because he had those 3 goals in the one game. He
scored a bunch of goals. He scored like 5 or 6 goals.
Scored like 5 or 6 goals. Yeah. And so good juju from him, right?
That's great for a center back over a half a season. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.
In terms of goal scoring, yes, he did a great job.
Yeah. But yeah, and I don't think he did too poorly defensively. I think it's going to be interesting if he's the number one next to Miles, how their relationship forms.
Sure. So what about you, Carmen? Do you see any players who, thrived under Pineda?
Yeah, I mean Almada. I always say him, just the fact that at least got him seen enough to get him on a World Cup
Yeah,
team.
right. Yeah, he made the
So
World Cup
something.
squad out of that.
There's something there, but besides that, I didn't really. I mean, you're right. Gutman. Is it Gutman or Gutman? We decided
It's Gutman.
Gutman.
Yeah.
Gutman. I thought he had a good season.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But besides that, I thought it was pretty.
And Almada is such a star. What I was impressed about Almada, and I think most Atlanta United fans would recognize, is like he didn't do what Barco was guilty of, which is kind of over pursuing, the talent of being able to dribble. I think we saw Almada get away from people with a quick step, the same way Miggy would, but then made a really smart decision and passed the ball into space or to somebody's feet.
His decision making is really good.
Yeah.
And even when the team wasn't going well, it didn't seem like there's a tendency when the team wasn't going well, Barco would just try to do it all.
Yeah.
And Almada didn't seem to be getting out of his game too much.
Correct.
He scored a couple of fantastic things, but by and large, he was still making decisions.
He didn't do the PT Martinez thing where he's just launching from 25 yards out. And
or even Araujo last year, who was launching from, everywhere.
Too many 25-yard shots trying to bend it into the far post
Right.
with Araujo. The data says that's really hard to do unless
we had a bet about that at some level
I know.
because we were talking about, as an inverted winger. And I said, if to justify an inverted winger, you need him to score. I don't know what I said. It was 3 or 5 goals or whatever.
I think I was skeptical of that when you.
I think we both were, but I think he scored one.
He scored one, but like you said,
one is not a lot.
It's a difficult thing to score.
He scored some goals, like not a lot, but even the goals he scored, like there was only one that he cut inside and bent it.
Yeah, but back to Almada, I think he's very measured when he chooses to take on that difficult challenge of taking an outside shot, and he's evaluating the fact that there's not a better pass, and that's the better option.
Here's another potential positive. What about Brooks Lennon? Pineda always talks about he was one of the leading goal creators, created chances in the league. And so, yes, he can really serve a ball. Do you think that was a positive under Pineda?
No.
And is there any hope for that? So one of the things you might say, we talked about how he was serving the ball to the wrong players.
Well,
right. He was serving it to Morenos. He was serving it to Almadas. He was serving it to Araujos, and they were not going to go head it in.
Right.
But my question to you, Mikey Dobbs, is now where the line looks like it's probably going to be led by Jackson Conway and
Papa Giorgio. Get it right.
I thought I had it. Anyway, but are those the right
Mr. Papa Giorgio?
Are those the right guys?
Well, here's what I saw during the U.S. men's national team friendly the other night, which our friend Gressel got his U.S. citizenship.
Yakamakis.
Don't you miss that early cross?
Yeah.
It's the early cross. Lennon can cross the ball. He doesn't see when to cross it early and bend it in that way that's so dangerous that Gressel just knew how to do. And that goal to Brandon Vasquez was like, I
certainly hurt two former Atlanta United players
really
hooking up on the national team for a great goal. Oh, it hurts.
Coincidence? I don't think so.
All right. So now the last aspect, tactics, team, whatever. Is there any positives that you see? Was there anything that was working tactically or we're trying here, folks.
I know we're trying. So last year, did anything work tactically? Is that your question?
Yeah,
correct. Was there anything that,
again, possession for possession's sake, we dominated.
We had a lot of passes.
We had a lot of completed passes.
Even some passes. We were in the attacking third a lot. We weren't in the box a lot, but we were in the attacking third a lot.
Attacking third a lot, right? Yeah. So okay, we've got possession. We're controlling the possession, making completed passes,
controlling tempo,
and on the offensive side of the field, and even more guilty than the Frank de Boer era, which is very guilty of doing a lot of lateral.
Yeah.
I think the downside was we didn't see the results. And supposedly, and this is where Pineda is patting everybody's back a little bit, that there was a lot of goal opportunities in terms of like the XG and the data. But I don't think from the eyeball test that's true. I think you can only say that we had offensive possession tactically in their half. I don't think we had a ton of great chances.
Carmen, what about you? Anything
you
tactically
think-
you saw that gives you positives?
I gotta be honest, no. Like I feel like Mikey is really reaching, and I appreciate the effort.
Good effort.
I'm trying.
You did a good job, but honestly, as I sit here, I honestly can't say I saw anything real positive from last year.
Yeah, I mean, we always talked about the problem seemed to be that the formation accentuated the weaknesses. You know, the fact that Gutman was terrific, you know, good for him, but no offense. If Gutman ends up being the best player, almost by definition, that's a problem because that means that it's not Almada or Moreno or Araujo.
So I think this is a good transition to the Chattanooga FC game.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk. Can we talk about the additions a little bit more?
Yeah.
And whether or not you think those additions could, I mean, the whole point of Pineda is he got rid of the people who were problems, and he supposedly they have more players. The new guys should be the guys he wants at some level. So does it work?
Well, let's start with the Papa Giorgio up front.
Right.
And the there's two things, right? Like, and I'm actually okay with like if Martinez is a poison pill, like in or you don't trust that he's ever going to get back to the form pre knee injury.
Yep.
Okay, I'm good. Move on from him. We still don't know why it ended like it did, and we had to buy him out, which seems silly. I think we should have been nasty and never said we should have been nasty. We should have been cold blooded, but that's just me, by the way. With Joseph Martinez, who I love, by the way.
Yeah.
Who I think should still be at the club. But
Okay.
should we have let him go to Miami and buy his contract out? Ridiculous. No. It's going to piss me off so much if he does.
It does say
find
something
form.
that, you know, there wasn't a lot of fishing from other MLS clubs, right? You know, it's
Yeah.
interesting. And analytically wise, his goals per minute was pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. And so you would have thought somebody would have wanted to take a flyer on that and made a decent bid for him, but
Yeah, I think
apparently not.
I think Miami sees like, yeah, he's in the same conference. He's going to be playing us. He'll be fired up. I can't believe we let him go to Miami, man. I think he's going to have a big chip on his shoulder, and it's a worry. Well, we're going to see Miami 2 times this season, right? And then one more in the League's Cup.
That's correct.
Right,
They're in our division, in our group in the League's Cup. Yeah. Okay. So now you bring in.
So we bring in the Greek and
Giacomakis. What do you think?
I'm certainly not disappointed. I am optimistic.
So let me review for the listeners a little bit about Giacomakis. So Giacomakis is Greek. He plays for the Greek national team. Gus Poyet is the head coach of the Greek national team. You must remember Gus Poyet from Premier League days in Chelsea. He was a terrific player. And he says, no matter where Giacomakis goes, he's my guy. He's the starting forward on the Greek national team. And for those of you, before you go say, Greek is the word, you know, blah, 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 blah. Greece won the European Championships not too long ago.
That's right.
Right? So, you know.
The Greeks can play some ball.
Yeah, they're not so bad. Anyway, so he's wanted by them. So he came from the Eredivisie. He played for Velmo.
And that's where he had some good numbers, right?
Yeah, so he scored 26 goals his last season in the Eredivisie while his team got relegated. So, I mean, now Dutch league is notoriously a goal-scoring league. A lot of people score a lot. You know, like Luis Suarez came to the Premier League from the Dutch league, and he scored like 30-something or whatever. A couple of Americans have scored you know, some decent numbers in the Eredivisie. It's a scoring league. But when you're getting relegated and you're by far the leading goal scorer in the team, everybody's just going to be marking you. Right. And he still scored 26 goals. So
yeah, and the MLS is a scoring league.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say that the MLS and the Eredivisie are similar. So anyway, he then transfers to Celtic. Very good Scottish team. They won the title last year. Right. And he ends up being their second leading scorer. They have a terrific the Japanese or Korean player. Forgetting his name now, but anyway, who ended up as their leading scorer at like 25 for Celtic. But he still scored 19 goals last year for Celtic as their second sort of fiddle.
Yeah.
So that's 2 consecutive seasons in good leagues that are equivalent to MLS where he basically scored 20 goals.
Yeah.
So that's promising.
Absolutely.
And he's 28 years old. So now,
So
what do you think he could do for Pineda?
I think he's got to do over 20 goals in my mind to fulfill the gap that Joseph potentially could have filled. That's what I'd like to see. 20 plus. What's your number in your head? Do you have one?
Honestly, if he gets 15,
Mm-hmm.
we're probably a playoff team.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take the exact team from last year and you add 15 goals from a striker position, that might be enough.
Yeah. Because Joseph only had 9 with his. Yeah. I agree. So, but I would want to see 20 to feel happiness.
To feel that joy.
If he gets 20, then But so the thing is, let's not even just talk about the number of goals he's going to get. So, he's a bigger guy. He's 6 foot tall, right? He's a little broad, right? So the question is he the kind of guy who can get on a Brooks Lennon cross?
Yeah, I would certainly think he could get on the end of a cross for sure.
Yeah.
So the question is the cross, as I was just talking about before, delivered at the right time? If he's going to be leading the line and pressing it, and can we get that ball in when the defense is reeling backwards versus having it be static, right? And we've got to avoid that, right? And if we are possession for the possession's sake and cross a bunch of balls in, and they're really not that dangerous because the defense can kind of predict them, and then the stats kind of say, oh, well, we had a cross that was in the box and that was highly dangerous. Bullshit. That is what my fear is going to be.
I mean, Pineda has said that those crosses are real, genuine goal-scoring opportunities, and I would argue that if they are, then he should be able to score a bunch of them. And if that's so,
why wouldn't Joseph be able to score?
If Pineda is,
Cisneros?
I don't know why not. But if Pineda is right, and I'm not sure he is, if Pineda is right, then Brooks Lennon now becomes one of the leading assist guys in the whole MLS. And, Giakoumakis ends up being one of the the leading scorers off of that, gets up in the goal scoring statistics. Now, one thing I will say is that I argued, we talked about it, what are you looking for? This team needed a guy, not a, honestly, if you gave me a choice of getting another Thiago Almada type, and we may have talked about this on the podcast even, who's an up-and-coming, 17, 18-year-old potential superstar, I would have said I would rather have a guy who's 28, who scored 20 goals in a decent league the last 2 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is what this team needs now. We need a guy who scores now, because Thiago Almada ain't going to be here certainly more than a year, right? I mean, Araujo...
So what do you think the DP deal is? Because Lagoe said he's going to be very conservative on, the long term, but also trying to play for the short term and make sure they make the right decisions here. So, hopefully we didn't kill ourselves. Do you know anything about the financials that are likely to happen and the duration of the DP contract?
So what's very clear is that they're signing into a DP contract. Which is, so we have 3 DP spots. They're on unlimited salaries. They don't count towards the cap, right? But he's being signed at a very, very low, just barely DP kind of salary, which means that they can use Tam and Gam to buy him down a little bit. And then if they have the opportunity, let's say a year from now, to get another DP, they want to go out and sign whoever, then they still can.
Which is what they did with Moreno, correct?
Yes, exactly what they did with Moreno.
Okay.
And that's what they said. They had Moreno, and it still allowed them to go out and buy Thiago Almada.
Right.
So I think that's smart.
Do you recall the youth DP under 23 thing? Isn't there like some?
There's a youth special spot if they're younger. Then it can't
younger than 21, right? Yeah. That's like, is it a DP thing? I can't remember.
Not absolutely sure.
I've lost my memory on how that works, but it feels like we haven't maybe used that slot either for the under 21.
So I was going to ask you about
I don't know.
You mentioned Gareth Lagerwey, right? He's the new general manager. Yeah. He came from Seattle. He has now built 2 really terrific and MLS winning sides at 2 different clubs, right? Because before that he was with Utah. Was it Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake,
or is it Colorado? It was one of those Pacific West clubs, and they built one of the title seasons that those 2 teams had. Anyway, he has said that, what's the expectations? He says home playoff game. That's the expectations.
I like
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it should be a very realistic expectation for the talent we have, again, which hasn't changed a whole lot other than Joseph Martinez exiting the building. And now that we've got this player that I believe can be in the same ballpark as Joseph, I think that's right where we should be.
And you got to wonder, though, right? If you now go to last year's squad, and this is maybe a good moment to talk about it. Last year's squad versus this year's squad, right? You lose Joseph Martinez, you get Giacomakis, and you lose Moreno, and you get, I don't know, nobody. Almada, still Almada, Araujo, still Araujo. Right, you lose Alan Franco. Supposedly, they're bringing in this guy,
Abram.
Yep. Louis Abram. Right. So, even if you argue that Giacomakis is the same or better than Joseph, and even if you argue that Abrams is the same or better than Franco, is the squad really improved from last year?
I don't think we're improved. No, I think
now, obviously, you might say it's improved just because we have Guzan and Miles Robinson back, and presumably they're not hurt. Although, over a season, you got to figure somebody you're going to get.
I don't know, because Alan Franco, to me, like defensive wise, still was better than Parata. I think is easy to throw some arrows at Franco the way that things unfolded around him.
Yep.
But I think he was a good defender. I think he, probably had some light shined on him that was fair and unfair in some of the decisions he made. I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I was going to throw it to Carmen. So, Carmen, what do you think of last year's squad versus this year's squad? Better, worse, the same?
I'm going to say about the same, and I feel like I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt on that.
Yeah, I feel like we just went like for like, right? And so the only thing you can say if it's going to be better, it's not more talented squad, that's for sure. The only thing you could say is it's possible it's a more cohesive squad. Right. There's no more, backroom,
Yeah, so
madness. And that's important.
It is important. So if you're gonna say like that, the attitude of Martinez is out of the building, the grumpiness of Moreno, who is a fantastically talented player, super skilled, but just didn't fit the mold next to Almada. Okay, I get it.
And the other one we haven't talked about, we recalled Tyler Wolff. Now he didn't play in Chattanooga, but what do you think about that prospect?
Elliot just mentioned Tyler Wolff.
Ah, okay, good. Well done, Elliot. You're keeping us holding our feet to the fire.
Yeah, I was maybe a little over positive on the potential.
He started last season's opening day.
Yeah,
people forget that.
Yeah.
So I think the minutes that he got early on last year, I don't know. I felt like he was close to breaking through, but never did, and that was a problem. Okay,
so he, I guess, is the Moreno replacement, right? He's a similar kind of attacking, dribbling, whatever player, but that's the guy who is gonna, whether you would say, would have to take up the slack that you lose from Moreno. Now, obviously, people would say we lost nothing from Moreno because Pineda benched him down the stretch.
I'm not wrong. I would see him being more of a sub, coming in for like Araujo or something, just to give him like a break in certain games.
If he's that player, then we're in trouble, because I feel like we need something better than that. Now, the other one we haven't talked about, who could be the upgrade, of course, Etienne. We haven't talked about Etienne, right? Etienne, perennial excellent MLS player.
Correct.
I looked it up. I don't actually think he's been an all-star.
Did he play in the preseason game?
No, he has a slight knock, but he's fine apparently,
right.
And it was just precautionary.
Okay, that's
so
good.
Almada and Etienne didn't play. Etienne's clearly the starting Moreno box-to-box guy, unless Tyler Wolff is.
Okay, So, okay, Etienne, yeah, I do feel like we're very much at parity then. I forgot about Etienne.
I did forget about him. Yeah.
And Mascara, we've got, and Caleb Wiley, another up.
Yeah,
another
Caleb Wiley could be
Wiley's.
good.
He's growing into like. Oh, that's a look. That's a look.
What?
What's Carmen? What's the look?
No, I
Yeah.
didn't have a look necessarily. No, I think Wiley is definitely up and coming. It's just for some reason I don't know necessarily where he's gonna fit or what they want to do with him.
Well, my opinion with him is he's obviously fabulous with his footwork. And so you've got to give him the right direction to, like, same with Christian Pulisic, able to put people on the back foot. That's what he's good at. He's able to get the defense on their heels a little bit.
Yeah.
And coach him into doing that at the right moments and then being responsible for other things when that's not the case. But I think you got to give him the freedom to put the team on the back foot and let him terrorize. And maybe that's a substitution type of thing. He was very good when he came out last year in that role versus a starter. I thought same way Mascara seems to be able to do that. I think that's an interesting
I love
question.
Wiley coming off the bench initially, but in a major role coming off the bench, like 30-minute kind of role.
Yes.
And if he plays well, he just gets more and more time, right? But, if you're a tired defender in the MLS, you do not want to see a Wiley. He's for a young guy, he's big, he's fast, he's physical. Now, what he lacked last year was the polish in the final third. He would often beat a guy, and then the last pass wasn't devastating, or he got into a great spot and his shot wasn't great. Oh, he's very young.
Like he might be 19.
Yeah, maybe. I think he's maybe only 18. Yeah.
So to learn a little bit of composure, I think that, like you said, like give him those minutes and give him those minutes in a successful, tired last 30 minutes. And like you said, let him work.
I'm honestly way higher on him than Tyler Wolff. Way higher.
I certainly don't disagree. He's definitely got a higher ceiling at this point with his age and
he's left-footed.
And he is left-footed. It just seems like they didn't really use him towards the end of the season last year when they decided to go with that lineup finally for a couple of games in a row. He wasn't a part of it. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. What happened there? Like with all the catastrophe or whatever, he wasn't.
I think they had got Mascara onto the team and he was getting those minutes, right? And so
Mascara looks to me like all fireworks and no meat, I mean,
a lot of speed and effort.
Jürgen Damm, all the tricks in the bag and the pace, and you get nothing for it.
Yeah. You seem a little higher on him last year.
Well, again, I don't think Mascara is a terrible signing, and I actually thought we didn't use Jürgen Damm that well. You put in Jürgen Damm, consistently in the last 7-8 minutes of a game. Again, you're a tired defender. You don't want a guy that pacey who wants to dribble at you.
So you're just saying he's the late. We need a goal. We need to figure something out, either to break the tie, get the win.
Yeah, for sure. Because usually you think you're bringing on a Dom Dwyer, some guy who could score up front. Presumably you got to figure Giakoumakis is the starter and Jackson Conway's coming off the bench. I know people saying, oh, he looks so, buff and whatever, but there is no way that Jackson Conway is ready to lead the line for us. It just didn't show anything of it. We were really, really high on Brandon Vasquez. He looked like a guy who was almost ready to lead the line.
Yeah.
But I have seen nothing from Jackson Conway that tells me that he's ready to lead the line. No. I think Jackson Conway is a good player. I think he could be an MLS player. I think he looks to me, Dom Dwyer, he's a guy who I think could score a goal in the last 10 minutes. But if he's our starting forward, we're in trouble.
I honestly am down on Conway. I've seen way too many opportunities for that guy coming in.
He missed a bunch of sitters.
Last year.
Didn't have the composure. But his record on the twos says that he can score sitters.
Okay.
Right? He scores those goals on twos. And people say, oh, it's the difference of the speed and the talent. But I don't really.
Then this is the year.
Yeah, he's got to do it. Yeah.
And the same with Wolf for that matter. He's coming back from no minutes at a Belgian second division team. This is his year or, adios. So it is, these guys are fighting for their jobs, which is a good thing, I guess. Now, can they be put in a position to succeed with the right formation around them?
Okay, so I feel like we've said as much positive as we could possibly say.
Good job.
Now we
guys.
can maybe
Good job,
talk
guys.
about the other half. Now, before we do that, Tyler Wolf, does that give us the opportunity to digress and finish off the madness that is the U.S. soccer soap opera?
Well, before we do that, do we want to talk about the actual preseason game? Like what you thought of the
We'll
Chattanooga?
get to that.
Oh, we're gonna get to
But
that.
that's when
we're
we
taking
go-
an intermission.
Yeah, we're taking an intermission
Yeah.
because, to be honest, that to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that only leads to the dark side, Mikey Dobbs.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't good. It's gonna lead right into
Yeah.
So
Let's go negative, then real negative. Okay, I'm with you. All right. So for those of you who haven't been keeping up after the Gio Reyna hubbub with his parents and Greg Berhalter and all the back and forth, Greg Berhalter has an investigation still pending. He's still in the candidate pool for
we need like some music.
But meanwhile, Brian McBride actually, even well before the World Cup in October, had already made the decision not to renew his contract as the GM for U.S. Soccer.
Surely did.
Sure. But
I ain't heard nothing.
moreover, what does the GM do for U.S. Soccer, Dave? Do you have an idea?
Nothing, right? Because you don't buy and sell players for U.S.
Right.
soccer.
So is it what is
Once
that?
you select the head coach, which is what Ernie Stewart did, and the whole incestuous mountaintop, right? So Berhalter's brother is in the organization. They ask him, to evaluate who might be the head coach. He talks to Berhalter. Berhalter says, I think Ernie Stewart would be the best general manager, right? When you're looking for the general manager, Then, so Berhalter tells his brother, I think Ernie Stewart would be the best general manager. So they hire Ernie Stewart. And then Ernie Stewart turns around and hires Berhalter.
So now Ernie Stewart has also decided he's going to take a head coaching job, or what's his role at PSV?
No, he's a general manager.
General GM.
So he's like an administrative role at PSV. He's Dutch originally, so he played for the U.S. national team, but he was born in Holland. I think his father was a U.S. serviceman and his mother was Dutch.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So you've got Ernie Stewart, who's now going to PSV. You've got Brian McBride, who's not coming back. You have GGG, who they're just basically saying is still canon, but there's no way in hell there is less than a 1% chance.
Berhalter, you mean?
Berhalter is, Berhalter has less than a 1% chance of being rehired, in my opinion.
Yes.
And
not going to happen.
No.
Who in the hell is in charge now of picking?
Well, you missed the last head to roll.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, our friend over at Austin FC,
Claudio Reyna, sacked.
Gio's dad wasn't sacked. He was
sacked.
He was sacked.
Ernie Stewart sacked. Brian McBride sacked. Right?
Yeah.
Claudio Reyna sacked.
Coincidence?
Everybody who was involved with this went down. Everybody went down.
Everybody's going down.
Who else did we got to take down? Who's next?
I don't know. They all
Anybody
went down.
left?
There's
I
nobody
know.
left.
I don't think there's anyone left to go.
Yeah, Danielle doesn't actually have a official
So-
job, right? US
No,
Maybe
but-
mom job. I don't know. Can we take that from you?
Now, is it a big deal,
gone.
in your opinion, that we get a head coach signed before what date?
Oh, I don't think there's much pressure at all, right? In terms of the date. People say, oh, we got to this and that, got to build or whatever. But, whoever we hire, as we've talked about, doesn't have to qualify. So whoever we hire is going to be the head coach of the U.S. national team for the World Cup when we're playing at home, right? And that is still years away.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So, we need enough time to have a lead up to that tournament, but that's an awful long time, right?
Right.
So I don't think, I don't think that we should dilly-dally and, drag it out. I think last time it was a catastrophe. They dragged it out for basically a year, and then they only ever interviewed Berhalter. That's the crazy thing. Ernie Stewart claimed he did an exhaustive search. He interviewed all these people, and they said, oh, yeah, give me a name. He throws out a name, Pareja. They go to Pareja. They said, what did you think not getting the job? He's like, I was never interviewed.
Tata Martino was like, they never reached out to me because my English wasn't good.
His
Well,
English wasn't
evidently,
good.
the Atlanta United player said his English was pretty darn good when it needed
So
to be.
Berhalter recommended Ernie Stewart. Ernie Stewart hired Berhalter without doing nothing. And anybody in HR will tell you, you hire someone with no search,
Not good.
that's not good.
Not good.
So you've got to replace Stewart, right? Before you get the head coach job sorted.
Presumably.
Right? No, you have to.
I think so, because he's the one who's supposed to hire him, right?
Right. I mean,
I agree.
Like Ernie Stewart can't appoint the next coach and then he's out. I mean,
although he's not actually out yet. And, we're just that crazy. You could see him making an appointment and then leaving.
No.
Right? It could happen. That
Well,
would be
it
madness. It would be absolutely madness.
Well, then if that were to happen, who in their right mind would take his job? Right?
If you're offered the U.S. national team coach job, you'd probably take it because, look, I'm going to be the coach for the World Cup.
I take it. I
Take
take
it.
it. Why not?
Yeah, I
Why
take
not?
it. Then
Who
I'd
cares?
probably fire that guy and go right back to the drawing board.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, so yeah, I agree with you. You got to figure that they're hiring a GM first. And then presumably there'll be that GM who would do the search.
U.S. men's national team didn't look so great.
No, I mean, it was a very young whatever
Yeah.
team, but no.
Didn't look fantastic.
To be honest, it was a late game, the first one, and I didn't stay up to watch it. I only watched the highlights.
It was the
which
second
one
one
are
was
we
It
kind of
was 10 o'clock, the first one.
I remember the second one being a little bit of a snooze fest, but I was
Yeah,
kind of
Columbia.
It
passively
was
watching, and I don't remember a lot of excitement.
Nothing exciting happened. 0-0 draw.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yada, yada, yada.
Well, let me ask y'all this.
There's no yada, yada,
No
yada in
yada,
the Columbia
yada.
game. No,
And
just
I
kidding.
know. But here's my question. Berhalter, is there a reason he's not just resigning at this point?
He doesn't have to resign. He's gone. They didn't renew his contract.
Yeah.
So they either have his
Oh.
contract ran out. So he either has to be
Oh.
renewed or nothing.
But-
So are we even investigating anymore? Like, what are we
I don't
investigating?
see why.
But yeah, I guess reframe your question. Why doesn't he just take his name out of the candidate
Yeah.
pool?
Like, just
At
go.
this point?
Just be like, it's been throw the deuces.
Because
it's
he
been
still wants
fun.
to be coach and he still has a chance. It's so incestuous. The general manager is, I don't know, 70, 80% likely to be a former U.S. national team player. And he could turn around and be like, screw it. We did an investigation. It was 30 years ago. He's fine. Berhalter.
There's
Yeah.
no.
I couldn't see it. I think that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't.
But,
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
again.
Can we please move on?
All right.
Yes,
We're moving.
Let's move on.
We're
Chattanooga.
Chattanooga.
All right.
Can we please move on?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't good, Dave.
Really?
It was
Are you
not good.
sure?
I'm positive. I've watched a lot of soccer in my day.
Okay.
And this game left me really struggling.
I want to
as-
reiterate to you, dear podcast listener, we tried hard to stay positive. We really tried.
I was honest as I was looking, I was just like, what positives can I take away from this team? What positives can the players in that first half, particularly, which was our starting lineup, right?
Starting lineup.
It was a good percentage of our starters outside of Etienne and Almada, right? We're all out there that were available. And boy, it was painful to watch. I did not see anything creative against a team that is very much a lesser team and should be, that was playing one-touch soccer against us at many, many moments and just made us look really, really JV. It was one of those moments where I'm like, why did I start a podcast about an MLS team? Why?
All right. Wait, let's back up a half step.
If you want to
Okay.
know how I felt, that was
Yeah.
like
Oh.
everything I've said about the
Ouch.
MLS might be wrong. It might not be one of the most progressing leagues because that soccer and what we did out there was horrific. And I have nothing positive to say about the first half on, even if we are trying to get something right in terms of playing out of the back or some sort of identity. I don't know. Am I wrong? Did anybody
Well, let's go. Who was
comment
this-
on YouTube, people? I want to know. Like, did you guys see anything? Am I out of my mind? I can give me a specific example of what we did that's positive in that game. I mean, what did we do?
Okay, let's just tell them who the starting lineup was. Brad Guzan in goal. Brooks Lennon at right back. Miles Robinson and Parata in the center, and Gutman on the left. A center midfield trio of Sosa at defensive midfield in front of behind Josetu and Ibarra. The wingers were Machop Chol and Araujo, and up top was Jackson Conway. So that is, right now our starting lineup. Obviously, Thiago Almada didn't play. He would be in the starting lineup because he had a slight knock, nothing serious. He's going to be fine. And presumably Etienne would be in the starting lineup. So you got to figure that it would be Almada instead of Machop Chol.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And it would be presumably Etienne instead of either Ibarra or Josetu or Sosa, one of the three.
Yeah. Chol did not look good. He kept trying to get to the end line and cross, couldn't do it with any sort of quality.
Trying to do too much. His first and second touch were not good at all, and I get that because it's preseason, it's rusty. So
okay.
I get that, and so that's just one player out of the way.
Okay.
Who else do we got? Give me another player.
Jackson Conway.
I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I can't remember a single dang thing he did.
I don't even know if he was in the game. If you told me he was in the game, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
No clue.
I don't remember a single thing.
So not good.
Not good.
Who else? Keep going. Luis Araujo.
2 goals.
2 goals, all athletic from a guy that you would expect.
One was a PK.
Yeah, one was a PK. One he poached bad defense, and he's the type of class player you would expect to use his speed.
And didn't Machop Chol score the third goal?
He did score. He did score.
Now you said Jackson Conway didn't do anything, not Machop Chol, but just so you know, I think he scored.
Okay.
Chol did, not Jackson Conway.
At that point, I was already reeling that it was a game where we were tied with a club that had no business score. First off, a club that had no business scoring 3 goals against us. So we got.
All right, you want to start there?
Let's start out of the back.
How do you give up 3 goals to Chattanooga?
First off, when you're a goalie that's recovering at age 47, and wait, is he 47? How old is
he? Is not
47.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm being a little.
Not even 40.
Okay, no, I'm 47.
Yes.
He sure as hell looked like he was my age.
He's like 38, 39, probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. Maybe I'm being a little dramatic here. But when you save the ball from going out of bounds and you push it to the striker to give him an opportunity to score, that's not good.
Now, let me tell you here, Pineda.
Is that how I saw it?
I have a series of Pineda quotes. He said that
there we go.
he was upset after watching a group composed of his first teamers give up 3 goals in the first 45 minutes, despite the fact that the team spent much of its first sessions in training camp in improving its defense.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oof.
Ooh. Even I didn't even watch the game, but just seeing y'all's texts, I could tell defense not so
The
good.
defense was atrocious.
It was something else.
They just shredded us. I mean, the goal we gave up. I mean, Guzan goes diving outside the post just to stop a ball from going over the end line. He just spills it, and the guy just comes across it and scores. So it's a terrible goal. Yeah. But forget that. Who cares? I don't care about that.
I agree. Look, whatever. I 100% like that.
And Guzan's going to be fine.
Guzan, I as much as I gave him shit there, it is going to be fine. That's exactly what preseason is for.
I agree.
I'm with you. But don't give up 2 more, Dave.
But you know why we were giving up goals?
Tell me.
Did you see what our outside backs were doing?
They were moving up the field. You're saying?
Was the exact same goals we've been giving up to MLS teams all last year. And if you think Chattanooga is going to score those goals, MLS teams are going to score those goals too. It was the same thing. We got caught out time and time again, and we're scrambling to get back and getting beat off the dribble because everybody's.
Who was in front of Gutman again? It was Chol, right?
Chol.
So yeah, he was way up. Lennon's always way up.
Right.
So what do I have to say?
So he says that he's working all preseason on defense, right? What's he doing? What's the difference? Did you see anything different?
No. And hold on, let's go to Lennon. What did you see positive out of Lennon?
Nothing.
I mean,
he got forward and did the same thing that he did to be honest, he looked exactly like he did all of last year. Occasionally a good forward, maybe capable of delivering a ball, terribly out of position,
to what
horrible
ends?
defending.
To what end?
And we didn't score a goal against him. So you might have said, like, look, this is our chance, right? If that's really system's going to work, Brooks Lennon should be able to torch Chattanooga. He should get the crosses. And Jackson Conway should have had a feast. Maybe he doesn't score, but he should have had 3, 4, 5, 6, chances off of Lennon crosses. Did you see it?
No. Jackson Conway pressed the line up high. Lennon crossed it early.
Right.
How about a couple of those instead of trying to Lennon get to the end line, Chol get to the end line? How about an early cross where you're just bombing?
And supposedly, the whole thing is also because we're supposed to be a pressing team. Pineda keeps talking about us as a pressing team. Did we turn over Chattanooga in their end? No, we did not. Right? We got destroyed in the midfield. Okay. So this brings us to the second quote.
Rossetto and Ibarra.
Yeah. So he said, Pineda says, Thiago Almada was a late scratch because of a minor knock. It wasn't serious. Okay. Because of that, Sosa was a late add. So Sosa wasn't going to start. So that says that he thinks our starting lineup is presumably Rossetto, defensive midfielder. Why in the world he thinks Rossetto is a defensive midfielder, I will never know. He's not. He doesn't win challenges. He doesn't regain possession. Right?
No, wait. Timeout.
Yeah, go ahead.
Timeout. You're suggesting that Pineda thinks Sosa is not a starter.
That's what he just said. He said because of that, Sosa was a late add.
Okay. If this starts to come to any sort of fruition, I'm all right.
Gonna lose your mind. I know.
Yes.
Okay. So, and then he says,
"You can't be right." I think that's just him not being.
That's what he said.
I know it's what he said.
Maybe Sosa had a little knock and wasn't going to play, and then Almada's knock was.
He did
bigger.
have a cast or something on his arm.
Oh, maybe I don't.
Anyway,
know.
so he says moving him into the lineup as a defensive midfielder, Sosa that is, forced Rossetto to move into the attacking position and Ibarra to move up and play as a central midfielder alongside Rossetto in some situations. Pineda said Ibarra hadn't trained at the position and didn't know the movements. Pineda said, but he said that Ibarra is good enough to learn how to play each position.
Ibarra played a ton of games last year at that position. Ibarra played a ton of games in that position.
Yes, he did.
That was his starting role.
Even if he didn't, right? What kind of midfielder doesn't know how to play midfield?
I just feel like pushing buttons, just like all over them at once.
Can you give us the straitjacket one? Because this.
Somebody should put a straitjacket on this guy.
Yeah, because that to me is. So we got dominated in the center of the midfield by Chattanooga. Yeah. Which is not a good sign. Now you'd say, all right, he doesn't have Etienne, but Almada's not going to help you defensively in the midfielder to win the battle. He's going to be the creative guy, right? So for all intents and purposes, we had, you might say that in an attacking role, maybe Etienne's the guy, but on games where we really wanted to, we're on the road in some, hostile good team. We want to pack it in a little bit. You'd go with the three more defensive players. It would be Sosa, Ibarra, and Rossetto. Those guys would be the really good defensive center midfield. Right. And they got run over by Chattanooga. And I will point out for all those who say, oh, maybe Chattanooga was more in midseason form. They started preseason only 5 or 6 days before this game. Just to play this game, they started after us.
So why is it that we're seeing Ibarra and Rossetto take a back step when they do have Sosa behind them, who's a great defensive center mid?
Yeah, they're talented, and I thought Sosa didn't look at all up to speed, and maybe that was the point. Maybe he had this cast on his arm. Maybe he hasn't been playing because of his arm, and maybe he's not quite ready yet or something. Yeah. So I thought Sosa was not that great.
Yeah.
So fair, but regardless of whether Sosa was not that great, we have to be able to dominate the midfield against Chattanooga. right, with those guys, if they are the guys. If you get run over, regardless of how not ready Sosa is, if you get run over in the midfield by Chattanooga, that to me says either the players suck or that the tactics are all wrong.
So what tactics would you have changed? And we talked about it last year. It's likely Chol and Lennon that are a part of that equation to not leave Ibarra and Josetu in the position of getting one touched around. Like
we
Chattanooga
got
was
killed,
able to
in
do.
my opinion. We got killed on the outlet in transition. So they were really good in transition. I think you probably would agree. Chattanooga, they really got out. It was one touch to get out.
Yeah, they released it really fast, and they
had guys wide open.
Yeah,
that's the problem. They had guys wide open on the sides, right? That first ball. So if you're going to be a pressing team, we should have been able to press Chattanooga. If you can't press Chattanooga, you're not pressing an MLS team. And if you're going to press a team, I always talk about this. If you're going to press a team, it starts in the back. You have to have that first outlet taken away. Otherwise, the guy is chasing like a madman and it doesn't do nothing because they just play an easy ball and we're out and go. Yeah. And that's what Chattanooga did all day. So we have done nothing to fix that problem, that they have an easy outlet and they were able to build up and go down the sides against us all the time. And that is not Sosa or Ibarra or Josetu's problem. That is a tactic problem in the formation. And you would think you would watch the whole offseason video. You'd watch the whole damn thing, see that every single team beat us that way, and you would make an adjustment. Right? I
mean, he's on fire.
Do Ibarra and Josetu suck, though?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Let's clarify that then.
I'm not huge high. I think Ibarra's a little young. He's not quite ready yet. And I'm not super high on Josetu, but I don't think they suck. Do I think that they're really, really good? No. But do I think that they suck? No. Do I think they should be able to dominate Chattanooga? Yes.
In fact, I think there was a moment when both of them were progressing and then it took a huge dive.
They stalled.
And then they've just gone backwards, which is a shame for their careers because I do think that both of them could be great players. And could be very solid players.
You can see that in the quotes that Pineda hasn't changed his tune, right? So here's the quote. It was supposed to work like this. This is Pineda in attack, according to Pineda. When Atlanta United had the ball, Ibarra was supposed to drop back beside Sosa to give Almada and Araujo more space inside and more space to the airplanes, Lennon and Gutman on the wings outside, running in behind Chattanooga's last line. So that's the tactic. Does that sound a lot like last year's tactic?
Well, it also doesn't sound like it worked, right? Like running every time Chol got the ball, right? Like again, he was coming back to it to receive it, and then he was forced to figure out some moves to try to get to the end line and cross it. That's what I saw.
And is Lennon ever going to run by anybody?
No.
But you know who could?
Who could is Ronald Hernandez.
Well, maybe.
Wiley.
Oh, yeah.
And Araujo.
Yeah.
Why in the world isn't the system set up for Araujo to Pineda, if you want an airplane, right? Here's my test at Pineda. Okay. Yeah. His airplanes who are his flying guys down the wing. That's the metaphor, right? Yeah. Flying guys down the wing. First, you might want to find out who's the fastest, right? So do me a test. Do me a favor, Pineda, which would be ridiculous. I would never suggest you actually do this. Go out and take Araujo and take Brooks Lennon on a track and let them run 100-yard dash against each other and see who finishes first.
Yeah.
Araujo gonna it's gonna be a 20-yard gap.
Yeah.
Right. And then you say to me, who do you want running behind the defense? Who's your airplane? Araujo.
Yeah.
Right. Why isn't the system designed for Araujo to get in behind people? He's fast and strong and skillful.
And there might be a guy named Almada that can slot a ball to him behind the defense.
That's your system. Get Almada on the ball. Get Araujo running.
Get Ronald Hernandez playing fullback and playing
Get
defense.
the fullbacks playing fullback.
Because you know who came on in the second half and looked pretty decent with the other kind of second stringers was Ronald Hernandez, a Venezuelan starter for the national team, which God only knows why they don't see what we see in Ronald Hernandez,
He's
a guy
real good.
who freaking knows how to play defense.
Well, because he doesn't fit the system.
You're right. He
Right.
doesn't fit the airplane model. It doesn't work.
Our airplanes have been grounded. You know what? You know what the plummet we should call the Pineda attacking formation? Here it is. Ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Southwest. It's the grounded airline. Can I get a boom shakalaka?
My bad.
Oh, you're going ATL
Sorry,
too.
I'm just pressing everything.
That's
My
right.
bad. My bad.
Roadcasting crazy.
But yeah, that's the problem.
I love how this podcast is going off the rails.
It's gone off the rails in a heartbeat.
Might be the wine. It might be the truth serum
truth
that we're
hurts.
drinking. I don't know.
Okay, so I guess this is our preseason sort of prediction kind of thing. Now we don't know yet because we don't know. We're assuming that yeah, I can't get it right. Yeah, a couple.
Papa Giorgio. I'm doing you a favor here.
Yakimakis.
You're not taking my lead.
No, I'm trying to get his name right. I'm trying to be
You couldn't
appropriate.
even get Gutman's name right all last
I
season.
know. I
And
guess
you
I
think you're going to get that?
Katz
Yeah.
is trying to be respectable and get the man's name. right.
Yakimakis. Anyway, so assuming we get Yakimakis, assuming we get Abrams, right? So we'll just assume that right now. Okay.
Mhm.
What's the prediction? How do you see us doing?
I think
Put you on the spot right now.
I think we will be 7th in the table. All by just like we can't be 10th again. But I don't see I mean I think that 7th. We'll just make the playoffs, we'll fizzle out.
Carmen.
Oh, 8th. Does that make playoffs? I think it's the same. Basically, we'll make the playoffs.
7 makes the playoffs.
7 makes
Seven?
play. 7 is just in the playoffs.
Oh God, we might be 8th. Then
Yeah.
we might not make it. We're right there. We're right there,
I
but
have
nothing
us-
exciting.
I have us at 8 or 9.
Yep.
I don't think we make the playoffs. We might be a little bit better than last year, maybe a little bit closer. It is also possible to me that if we don't do well after a while, the rails could just totally fall off. People just totally abandon Pineda's system at all. And
Yeah.
because I think, to be honest, the locker room culture that was the problem last year, without having been in the locker room, if I had to guess, it wasn't really a problem until we started losing.
Okay. So Dave, and I got this wrong when I posted it on Twitter, but
Okay.
in terms of Atlanta United's first 3 games, our last preseason game is at St. Louis, the new expansion team, which I actually thought was their starting game, which I was incorrect there.
Yeah, that's just an exhibition.
So our first game is against San Jose at home. San Jose, I think, was like bottom of the table, if I'm not mistaken, last year in their division. Got to win that, right? At home.
San Jose?
San Jose?
Yeah.
Okay, win.
yes.
Well,
Okay.
well, you say we have to win. Are we going to win?
Hold on. We have to win. It's a must win.
Yeah, it's a must-win game.
Okay.
right out
We
right
are
out the
going
gate.
to win. I'm going to be the positive person. We are
Yeah.
going
Second
to.
game at home against Toronto. Second to last in the division, if I'm not
They're a
mistaken.
young team. Bradley's had a year to coach them for a year. They're going to be a better team this year.
We just got Sean Johnson.
Yeah, they're
They
a better
did.
team.
Okay, well, whew, that's going to be
Why
hard.
couldn't we get John Johnson?
Okay.
Because Guzan.
Still at home, still against a young team that shouldn't be good.
No.
Might be good because it's MLS. I get it. But there's no reason we shouldn't win that game except
Okay.
for Sean Johnson because that guy can stop some goals.
Yeah, he
man.
really can.
You had to, you kind of threw that
He good.
curveball. He was good.
Very good.
All right.
My best.
Then
My best.
on the
English.
road, our first road game isn't that far away. It's in Charlotte.
Okay.
I started a team that played above their skis last year or over their skis.
They
however
were
you wanna
good
see
for
it.
a while. They just fell off the
Yeah.
face of the earth towards the end, right?
I think they played on some adrenaline and got it, but I think there's a reckoning there. So I think we should go 3-0 to start the season. 2-1. Okay. Anything worse than that, we're in trouble.
I got a quote for you, Mikey Dobbs. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Pineda, when asked about the game overall,
The Chattanooga game.
We can see a lot of mistakes that we had, but also, Mikey Dobbs, a lot of good actions.
Name one.
Wait.
I'm asking our
listen.
listeners. I'm asking our
Listen.
listeners. Get on the chat and give me one good action.
We can see a lot of mistakes that we had, but also a lot of good actions. I really think that Chattanooga plays good football, and
They did.
they're a very good team.
They're a very good team for their level of league, but not an MLS team.
Yes, of course. I think their coach is terrific.
Yeah.
I think they actually play well. That's all true. Are they a very good team for playing against an MLS team?
No.
Not only that, they won the title last year in the 3rd division, right? They're not even in the USL. They're below the USL. They're in the third. Yes, they're in the 3rd division. They won the title though. But here's the problem. They won the title and something like 9 of their players are not returning because they all moved up to the USL because they were good.
Yeah, and in fact, I think if you want to put it on English Premier League terms, right, you've got MLS, USL, MLS Next, and then whatever league that is, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like Wrexham level.
Yeah. It's not it's
Whoa,
non-league.
whoa.
It's non-league.
Back up.
Yeah.
So you're telling me they're like 3rd tier
Yeah.
Yes.
and had only been in training camp
5
for
days.
about 5 days.
It was less than a week. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. My positivity is slow.
They scored 3 goals against our
I mean,
first team.
Carmen,
Yeah.
After we worked on defense all the preseason.
because it's preseason, I'm like, I don't really care about the result
Right.
or whatever. It can be a total free for all. And then the second half, we put in the younger players. And by the way, I'm not really judging this game on the second half where we put in the younger players. I actually thought they played way better than our starters.
Yes.
Way better.
Yeah, Noah Cobb looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a little overhyped, but he looked good.
Yeah. So we're judging this on the first half and our starters and what our coach is trying to accomplish as far as tactics and a system that he's setting ourselves on a course to be ready for that San Jose game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking and I'm wondering what is going on. And it's just the definition of insanity because it was the same thing over and over again.
You know, it's crazy. I mean, maybe it's not crazy. We've been hanging out too long. I was literally going to say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And that was what I was looking for in this opening game. Okay, you know, we maybe fix the culture or whatever in the thing, but basically we have a similar squad, right? So what's different? What are we going to do differently to fix the problems? And the answer is nothing.
Yeah.
We're going to do the exact same thing and hope that we don't have the injuries, and Miles Robinson and Guzan and getting rid of a couple of attitudes is enough. And you're going to find out, dear podcast listeners, all of those people out there who say that, you know, it was the injuries and it was the bad attitude. And as long as we have a good attitude and we don't have the injuries, we're going to be much, much better. You're going to find out whether that's true.
We are. And it's one thing if we come in 7th place or 6th place, and that's like best case scenario in my mind. But are we playing exciting, attractive football? Think back to 2017, right? Like, I mean, from game 1, it was exciting soccer to watch. When can we get back to that? We don't have to even make the playoffs. I don't even care. Get back to exciting soccer.
Here's the interesting thing.
Boring.
So if you go back to Seattle, and I have now because, you know, Pineda came from there, and Seattle is a little bit feast or famine. They have also the same formation with the attacking outside guys. They get a lot of guys forward. And when it's going right, it does score goals. When it's going poorly, they give up a bunch of goals, right? And so you kind of think, you know, to be fair again to Pineda, and this is a new season, we're giving him, you know, a new birth, right? His system is designed. We have the most players forward. I mean, you saw it. There are times when, and this is true of Seattle too, there are times when we have literally only 2 players back. So it's an aggressive system. It's supposed to be designed to score goals. And at times in Seattle, it works. They have overwhelmed other teams and score goals. So it is possible that that would happen here and they could get on a run. The problem I have is that those teams were built that way. The outside backs are really much better. That they're built to be 2-on-1 on the outsides, right? They have guys playing together, playing for the team. They don't have an Araujo. They don't have a Thiago Almada, right? And so those guys are not going to go and play with you 2v1, and try to beat you with overwhelming, an overlap with, Brooks Lennon. Those guys are going to get on the ball, create things, dribble into gaps, make a play, whatever. It seems like we're at X's and O's, 6s and 7s. The team still does not fit that.
So question, with this Peruvian center back that's supposed to be coming in, do you think, I haven't read much about him, do you put him as the starter above Purata and Purata becomes the backfill, or is Purata meant to be the starter next to Miles, you think?
My feeling is that it's early cover for Miles. If Miles gets out of the gate poorly because of the injury, he's there to cover. Ultimately, it's a battle between Purata and this guy. They're on paper, you would say this guy's probably on paper a better defender. He actually started out, I think, in South America, and he went to Spain. He got a big transfer to Spain because he played really, really well, right? And he did initially well there, but then fell off the earth, right? And started not playing very much. Moved back to Mexico, I believe, and was starting every game again. They said that he had a loss of form, but he's supposed to be a guy that when on his day people were thinking about him as a La Liga player. He played in La Liga. Right. So I would say he has a higher ceiling, and I think the management has to be thinking that he ultimately would beat out Purata.
So assuming we sign him, that answers a little of our question of who the center back's going to be. That's cover for Miles and or some depth in that position. We still have some more depth question marks there. We need more depth there. I don't know why we'd sign another midfielder. I think we need another center back personally.
On top of Abrams. So you want a fourth center back.
Who's the other one?
We have 3.
Yeah, we got
Abrams, Purata, and Miles Robinson.
The Peruvian guy's Abrams.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I would want a fourth one.
Okay. Well, I think to me, you don't need it because you have Hernandez, who's capable of filling in as a center back or a right back. So I think 3 is fine.
Has Hernandez ever played center back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't ever remember him filling in.
He has, and he's more than capable of doing it.
And same with Gutman. And then you got
can
Wiley.
Play center back. Yeah.
Okay.
Wiley, Gutman is the starting left back. And Wiley presumably is a more forward player if he's going to be a starter or coming off the bench. But if Gutman goes down, Wiley has left back experience.
So knowing what we know now, which I would say other than this one other mystery signing that's yet to be announced,
right?
Who is your starting lineup, or who do you think as the team gets healthy at this, with what we know now, if Dave is coaching the team, who starts and in what position and why?
So to me, obviously the center back pairing.
Who's the goalkeeper?
Oh, who's the goalkeeper? It's Guzan.
Okay.
I mean,
just want to clarify.
I mean, obviously, if he shows that he is really making mistakes because he's favoring it early, then you got to have a short leash, right? We have a decent backup, MLS experience, and honestly, I wouldn't have a short leash forever. Like as in he doesn't play well, yank him. Let the other guy start for 3 or 4 games and give him another chance.
Right.
Let him relax a little bit. Let him get more training in. If he starts out well, then he's the guy.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed.
Yeah. Center back, I think obviously you got to start with Miles Robinson and Purata. Okay. But we haven't seen Abrams. You give him every chance to beat him out. Right, to beat out either.
I am hopeful that he would beat him out on his defensive merits over Purata.
Yeah,
because I like Purata to come in certain games and get up there and where it's tactically smart, where you're going to need those headers in the goal. But
and the other thing about Purata is he's a great, on the road in a tough environment. You could play 5 in the back, and play Purata as an extra guy and let him get forward some. Right, totally. That's fine. Right,
love that idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then Gutman, obviously the best player on our team. Yeah, and
he's not. But
he
nice
was
try.
last year.
No, he wasn't.
No.
Thiago Almada is our best player by far.
Yeah.
Come on, Dave.
Yeah, well,
By any measure,
most important player last year, I think, was Gutman. But anyway, they're very close. And Almada's a much higher ceiling.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. I'm not arguing. Anyway. And then to me, Hernandez at right back, you gotta have somebody who defends, right?
So we're 5 players in now. I'm 100% agreed with you. So you got Goose, 2 center backs are Miles, Parata, Ronald Hernandez on the right fullback, Gutman left fullback.
I always feel like
and Sosa, I'm sure, in front of those 4.
Yeah, I mean, we have a problem in that, I would love to have, if you're keeping the outside backs back more, and they're attacking occasionally, but not, all the time, then you need wingers. So to me, Araujo would not be inverted. He would be on the left side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a shame because actually maybe the best other winger on our team is Wiley.
Yeah.
So I could see Araujo and Wiley and let Araujo do his crazy inverted thing. But I really think that Araujo is best on the left. I would be working with Araujo all the time to run.
But even though, I don't think I've ever seen Wiley inverted because he's left-footed, correct?
Why not?
So that would be interesting to flip that around just to see what would happen. But okay, so let's recap. You've got the 4 in the back we just talked about, and then Sosa in front of them, right? I'm putting words in your mouth there, but I know you love Sosa, so that's who you picked as.
Yeah, certainly Sosa to me is one of the first names on the team sheet every time. You got to have him as defensive. And then the obvious thing is the 2 attacking midfielders. I wouldn't have Josetu. I wouldn't have Ibarra. It would be Etienne and Almada.
Okay.
As the 2 guys sitting in front of him in the midfield with a lot of freedom, right? Etienne maybe at times a little bit more stay at home, be defensive beside Sosa. Thiago Almada, a little bit more freedom to go where he is, but that's the 3 in the midfield, right?
Yeah.
Let's go. And I would have real wingers.
So who are you starting as your wingers?
Well, we got a problem, right? Because the system has, the players have.
Yeah, you're the coach, man. You fix the problem. Who are you starting? You got talent.
Well, to me, Araujo has to be playing left wing for sure.
So you're going to put him out on the left, use his natural left, not inverted.
Yeah. Okay. And to be honest, I think to me, I would have Brooks Lennon sitting in front initially, sitting in front of Hernandez.
And you're suggesting that doesn't work. Figure out Wiley back to the left, Araujo back to the right, or some sort of formation switch there.
To be honest, I think what could happen is Almada could go out to the left if you needed it. There's some flexibility there. I like him much more through the middle. I would start him there. To me, honestly, he holds the keys to the kingdom, right? Yeah. So he should be in the most dangerous spots. To be honestly, a free license to go where he wants to find gaps, but basically in the middle of the field. And Pineda has the right idea in that you have to have outside people to draw people away from Almada. Yeah. He just has the wrong guys doing it. And he has those guys doing it, and we're so vulnerable in the back. We don't need it. It should be, his airplanes who are not only getting down the wings, but also opening it up for Almada. His airplane is Araujo. Yeah. Now, I would never have let Moreno go because I would have had the bookend be Moreno, but he's gone.
But Moreno was an airplane. He's more of a skilled player, but he can go by people. But he kind of slowed down after he went by them with a quick burst. I would say Wiley's more of your other airplane.
Right. He's the only other guy who has pace to get.
Now he's got to prove it. I mean, in terms of being able to go 90, but to your point, he can definitely go for 30.
I can also see, to be honest, I would be hoping that Wiley does such a good job. He forces my hand. Wiley becomes the left winger. Araujo goes inverted on the right wing, and you let that, happen. Right.
And then, of course, Papa Giorgio up front, right?
And Papa Giorgio up front.
Turning you over.
Yakamakis.
Yeah. So there we go. There's our starting lineup. Let's recap. We got Braguzan in the back, goalkeeper. We've got Parata, Miles Robinson, center backs, Gutman on the left, and Ronald Hernandez on the right, Sosa in front, leading as the defensive center midfielder.
Yep.
In front of him, we have Etienne and Almada. On the left, we have Araujo, Brooks, Lennon to start on the right as our airplanes. And then up front, we've got Papa Giorgio.
Yep.
I would have picked the exact same starting lineup. So we are 100% aligned, which is kind of annoying.
All right. Look at there.
I mean,
Well, yeah.
I think I would. Yeah, I agree. Like Lennon is the X factor, and whether you bring in Wiley and do some sort of creative thing, certainly in certain games, I think you should use that to your advantage.
I'm
right?
not such a big Josetu fan, so to me on the road, you would think about Ibarra coming in for Etienne if he really. I mean, we haven't seen Etienne, so
I have
we
no
don't
idea.
really know. I mean, if he's not as good a defensive player, then on the road you might want to have Ibarra as a. We've talked about Man United and Fred, who was brought in for Man United to be the defensive midfielder. He's an awful defensive midfielder, right? Because he's all action. He gets in tackles. He wins balls all the time, but he also is rush of blood to the head. He's all over the freaking place. He has no discipline, right? And he does crazy things. So in the end, it doesn't work because he makes 4, 5, 6 awesome plays and then gives up a goal, right? But when you play a real defensive midfielder like they have in Casemiro, and now in certain moments you play Fred in front of him, now you have 2 defensive midfielders who the front guy can be much more aggressive. You can really do damage. And to me, Ibarra looks like that. He's a little bit more aggressive. He's not as smart reading the game as Sosa is, but he's a good in the tackle. He wins the ball back. He's feisty. He gets in fights. You like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and on the road, playing Ibarra in front of Sosa as a destroyer works for me, or late in the game when you have a lead.
I feel like when everything else is working around Ibarra and it's set up the way, he can really play well.
Yeah.
But when it's not, he makes silly mistakes and looks out of place. But I think that's more about the thought of what's around him and setting him up for success on his own.
But the key is, I mean, Pineda has the right idea, which is you've got to open up space for Almada and you have to have guys who can get in behind. Here's the problem, though. We have our outside backs going forward, and every MLS team has said to us, fine, give it to Lennon, give it to Gutman. As long as you don't give it to Almada, we're still not going to leave him. You give it to him. Go ahead, have time, go fun, go play, right? And what are you going to do? You're crossing into nobody, right?
Yeah.
And that's a problem because they just let him have it, and it's not good enough to break anybody down.
Well, especially when you don't throw the change up, which is called the early cross.
Right.
We never play the early cross anymore because we don't have that commitment for those guys to get in the box early, which I'm really hoping Papa Giorgio can show that he can press the line forward, create the creative space for Almada maybe to pick it back up and make another beautiful pass, or let Lennon bomb down and make an early cross. I mean, that's the type of movement I think we've got to see. Versus,
I do think Giakoumakis, when he's set up by Almada in these perfect situations, he's going to score.
So more like you're thinking right down the center type of.
Yeah, a little flit. Set him through. But that all, to me, it all depends on, it's not Gutman and Lennon who you want breaking into this space. It's Araujo. The key to the whole thing is you have to be afraid of Araujo running in space. And the problem with Araujo right now in this system is he hangs back and he gets the ball at his feet. Now, that's okay because he can go by a guy, but it's really good if he's running and we feed him.
He's frightening.
He is a frightening player.
We couldn't find one opportunity, Dave, against Chattanooga to pass the ball to Luis Araujo while he was on his front foot running into it.
I know.
Not once.
Well, in fairness, he doesn't run that much. And to me, that's coaching, right? You could be like, I would be like, on him. You got to be. What I would say to Araujo is you get out on the wing. You don't need to defend very much, but be out on that space. So force somebody. So the defender has 2 options. He can either come out to you, right? If he comes out to you, you freaking take off behind him and say bye-bye, right? And you try to get the ball served into you. If he doesn't come out to you, we're going to serve you all day as the open guy. And at least we have Araujo running at a defender rather than Brooks Lennon running at a defender.
If you have Almada with a ball and his head is up, and Araujo is running behind the back line at all, you don't think Almada can chip it over and play it right on a plate to him?
Right.
It should be so frightening. Or Almada is good enough to see that Araujo is going to check back to it after he's pressed the line up and come back to it. And there's just so many things I'd be so excited about.
Well, the thing that you have to do is you need your back four to be aggressive and up the field and winning balls, right? So if you say Hernandez, Gutman, Miles Robinson, Parata, you say that back four has some strength. It's got some pace. Nobody's going to run behind them. They can get really far up the field and win balls. And your job is to win it, give it to Araujo, win it to give it to Almada, win it, give it to Etienne, right? And just recycle it and forget about we don't want you on the end of a run.
Yeah.
We mostly want you just winning balls at midfield.
Yeah. Which Gutman and Hernandez can do.
Because the moment
long.
you have it marked up, you're going to see an absolutely brilliant Sosa, because the only way you can beat Sosa is they have an easy outlet. There's nothing he can do about it. Yeah. As soon as you have it marked up, now Sosa can go hunting.
Yeah.
And when Sosa goes hunting, I don't know if you've been watching Casemiro at Manchester United, but he's turning the ball over all the time.
And if you have Ronald Hernandez behind Lennon might start playing really well, and I'll get off his back a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Yeah. And honestly, if Lennon wasn't so far back, he's a better. You have another defensive guy in front of Hernandez, and if he stays up where you use him as an outlet, now you might find that he actually serves an early ball because he's going to have all day to get his head up.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what Etienne's about too. I have no idea he's an X factor in this season. I think.
I don't know. I mean, in a perfect world, he's a poor man's Nogby. Where he can really keep the ball and just get it on to the next guy. I think he's a little bit more attacking than that and not as good in possession as that. But
so that leaves us with, Josetu, who's more ticky-tacky in the middle. Like, he doesn't play overly offensively. He's not a great defender.
I don't see a huge role for him.
Yeah, I don't see.
But honestly, Pineda thinks he's the defensive midfielder.
I don't see a big role for Josetu. I don't see a big role, obviously, for a Marcetic.
No, we haven't even talked
I was about to say.
And he's going to be the starter, probably.
Oh, God, no. Don't even say that. That's ridiculous. It's just seriously ridiculous.
He's going to be the starter.
No, he's not, Dave.
Yes, he is. On opening day.
You shut your mouth.
What am I doing?
Jacket.
There it is.
Somebody should put a straight jacket on this guy.
Ibarra, I still see upside.
Yes. I was just going to say, I thought you were going to say, I don't see anything from Ibarra. And I was going to be like, no, I disagree. Damn it.
You're agreeing on everything. What is happening here?
Because we're watching the same game.
We're watching the same game.
It's just Pineda who's not watching the same game. What is he watching?
I don't know. I don't know at this point.
And he had the whole season to do it.
And if you were listening to this, I hope I'm so wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Prove us wrong.
Prove us
wrong.
Go
on a crazy run.
Go on a crazy run.
Be amazing.
But
that'd be fantastic.
To be honest, I would go out on a limb. Even if Pineda somehow goes on a crazy run, which is possible with this system, I've said it's feast or famine.
Right.
They can go on a run. He could even have a run where he ends up, fourth place in the table, third place in the table, because they get hot. They maintain it over a certain period of time. They have a stretch where it's not so good, but it's good enough. MLS, is a very marginal league. It's a small difference between third and 10.
Around the hoop a little bit.
Yeah, and you could see it. If that happens with this system, the next year we're going right back to 10th because there's nothing sustainable about it. Nothing.
So, Dave, do you see that? That's the dying fire. I think we came out strong out of the gates. Preseason, Chattanooga, 3-3. Definition of insanity, not because we want to be down on the team, but it's not.
I know you want. I want to say one more thing. So if you're a coach, regardless of, forget your Pineda, forget your even Atlanta United, right? But if you're a coach and you finish 10th place, right? particularly if you finish 10th place with the leading, most
Payroll.
expensive payroll. But let's say you just finished 10th place.
The only player in MLS history to be in a World Cup.
The first thing that you have to be thinking about in the offseason is something has to change, right?
Yeah.
What I don't understand is this idea that, which I think he's thinking, that it's players who got plucked out, the injuries, and culture. And that's the difference between 10th place and 3rd place or 4th place or whatever, a home playoff game, as Gareth Lagerwey would say. I don't get that.
I hate to say this too about Pineda, and I know his English isn't perfect, but he's been in the US long enough. Like, yeah, I don't think that he has a lot of complex ideas. I think he's a bit basic. I think he's exactly hoping for what you're hoping for. I know that's a mean thing to say. I just don't think he's really thinking through the chess game.
I had a weird thought about him.
Not that I'm a great chess player either. I'm just saying.
He was a defensive midfielder for Mexico. He was a Mexican international, right? And he played defensive midfield. And he didn't have anything overly spectacular. He just got by with a lot of heart and, a lot of movement and effort and won balls and whatever. And I first thought, sometimes those guys who don't have incredible physical attributes, but still play at a very high level. And he was a terrific player, make great coaches because they've had to do extra things. I almost feel like he thinks, I wasn't such a great talent, and yet I was really, really good. It's not that hard in the midfield, and we don't have to do that much. Like, he's learned the wrong lesson, the opposite lesson. Yeah. I mean, this is totally projecting. I have no idea whether this is true, but
let's end it with this, right? Because with Lagerwey coming in, it's clear that you would think Pineda has a longer leash. Not only this season, but even in the next season. Dave.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
Ooh, yay.
I am going to disagree with you. I think Lagerwey as an executive has had a lot of success, and you would think he can see it, right? And he has, to me, his words say a lot. If I were him, I would have said, what is the expectation? Playoffs. He didn't say that. He said expectation is home playoff game. So he set the bar higher. Okay. And by saying that, or he could have said, look, we just, we support the coach and we're going to see how good we do, blah, blah, blah. Right. He didn't say that. He said home playoff game. He set a bar.
Set a very clear benchmark.
Yeah. And I don't think he's going to tolerate if we miss that benchmark by a long way, which I think we're going to.
Yeah.
Because I think at best we're going to finish 7th and just make the playoffs. But I think Carmen and I are closer to right with 8th, 9th, just outside. I could see us moving up a spot.
I'm always more optimistic than I should be because of the talent that we have and what they should be able to do, which should be in the top 3.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, heard it here.
We definitely talked about it all. Thanks for listening, everybody, and have a great evening, great week.
Yeah. Hopefully the season goes well.
Emergency drinking beer.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Blue button.
Oh, I feel like that went downhill in a hurry.